Good afternoon and welcome back to Antique Central. Today we're at the Urban Auction House in Worcestershire, and the plan is to have a scout around at what's up for auction, identify 6 items I'm particularly interested in, and we'll see what they get sold for. So let's head inside and see how we get on. Before we start, it's really important to know that the items I'm going to pick aren't necessarily, well, they're definitely not the best items in the auction. And by that I mean they're not the most expensive or necessarily the most desirable items. So please don't judge this auction based on the items I choose.
Lot number 213 is a silver gravy boat. Weight 142.6 grams approx. Style is 60 quid. £60 for it. 60. Any interest? 55 then. Let's get it going. 50 on starting. 52, 54, 56, 58. No, 56 I've got. 58, John 60. 62, 64, 66. No, 64 I've got. I'm going to sell it. 64. Thank you.
So you might be sat there thinking, whoever bought the sterling silver gravy boat got themselves a right bargain. And why didn't I put a bid in when it sold for £64 and the scrap value is around £71? I mean, all I'd have to do is get myself down the bullion dealer in the jewellery quarter in Birmingham and scrap it in for a quick £7 profit. Easy as that. Well, unfortunately, it's not quite as simple as it seems. For those of you new to the antiques game, or if you haven't been to an auction before, you need to be aware that every auction house, I know anyway, will add charges to the hammer price, including a lotting fee and a percentage on the final hammer price. So with a bit of basic maths that even I can do, it works out that you would pay a 10% hammer fee of £6.40 on your £64 winning bid, plus a £1 lot fee, making a final total of £71.40, which is almost identical to the scrap value. So, unless you have bought the gravy boat as an investment, hoping the value of silver will rise, or you have bought it as an antique piece of historic silver with an intrinsic value beyond its scrap value, then at the time of purchase, the bottom line is you have paid the scrap value of about £71 plus a few pennies with no quick return. Therefore, if you are new to bidding at auctions, always work out your maximum bid including the additional fees you have to pay, which will vary between the different auction houses, not only around the country but probably around the world. Anyway, enough of the maths lesson. Let's get back to the auction and see how some of my favourite items did. Here we have a box of assorted silver plate and pewter. Now in the past this is an item that I would have had some interest in, but it certainly isn't going to go onto the website unless there was a real outstanding piece of arts and crafts, Art Nouveau, etc. But I couldn't see any in the box. So as I said, even though I would have bid in the past on it, I'm going to pass it by on this occasion. I had a good route through, and that's always important to do, and check any maker's mark. But I think you could safely assume that with all the professional dealers in the house, they will have done the same. And if there is any silver in there, it will have been spotted and it would sell appropriately. This job lot of silver plate and pewter sold for £5. We have a second box of assorted metalware here, and this is a mixture of brass with silver plate, and I think there's some copper in there as well. It's always important, as I said earlier, to root through the whole box just to see if there are any hidden gems that the rest of the room may have missed, but it is unlikely. This job lot of brass sold for £5. I don't particularly buy job lots of glass, however that's likely to change in the future now I've got the market stall back up and running. This job lot of glass sold for £3, and here we have another tub, a job lot of silver plate, which sold for £8. Here we have a wee and I know nothing about that kind of thing at all, so I'm passing on that. And recently I tried to sell a bag of plush, which are soft toys, at an auction, and nobody was interested at all. Here we have assorted, what I would call, without being rude to the vendor, bric-a-brac. I enjoy looking through these sorts of tins because you can find desirable little items such as penknives, nutcrackers, and items like that, which can sell individually quite well. So you can pick them up in a job lot at a reasonable price. Again, always check the base of any ceramics. And here's a Myatt and Son, which I think, if memory serves me right, is kind of 1920s, 30s. Not worth a great deal at all, so I'll be passing on these boxes of assorted bric-a-brac. This job lot of bric-a-brac sold for £10. Now here actually is a very nice, possibly Georgian copper chamber stick. But if you look at the lot number on that, it's lot 358. You can just see the sticker on the side of the box. And I'm not going to be here that late, so I won't be bidding on it. And there's a nice matchbox holder as well, which I would have been interested. It would have been a little bit nearer the start of the auction, and some copper salt and pepper shakers as well. A condiment set. This job lot of copper and other metalware sold for £32. So in hindsight, I may have put a commission bid on that, but I wasn't that bothered. I'll be quite honest with you. It didn't jump up and bite me. So again, I'm going to pass on that. A little Indian hand engraved beaker. There's definitely an argument I should be buying these job lots for the flea market stall, but I've got to get my head around it, to be quite honest with you. These are all antique, but on their own, not of any intrinsic value at all. Bypass some display cases here. I don't have anything to display at the moment, so I've got no need for those. And here we have a classic set of teak mid-century nesting tables. Now, I'm not going to bid on these. I would have done when I had the shop because I had the space, but I'm certainly not storing them and having to pay for shipping around the country. This teak nest of mid-century tables sold for £20. Some type of branded antique box. Not sure what that even says, so I won't be bidding on that. There's also some damage to the lid, which puts me off, as I'm only trying to buy stock now that needs no restoration. Here's an interesting lot. A sack truck that's been cut off at the top, and an industrial stool or chair that has lost its upholstery. This sack truck sold for £30 and the industrial chair sold for £20. Now this is nice. It's a small antique dovetail joint, so quite well made, possibly a child's or a lady's writing desk. The wood's a bit of a mystery at the moment. It could be pine painted up to look like mahogany. Not too sure about that, but I'm not bidding on it anyway, so I'm not going to lose too much sleep about that. This small writing desk or side table sold for £8. Here we have an attractive oak side table and what looks like a tin plate newspaper box. It did catch my eye. It's just about on the top end of the size of items I'm selling now. Check inside to make sure there's no envelopes full of money in there. This tin newspaper box sold for £3. Now here we have a job lot of Compton and Woodhouse figurines. I sold probably 20 of these at an auction a couple of weeks ago, and they don't go for a lot. They're normally sold as a job lot and achieve £5 to £10 each. When they were sold originally, they were all sold as collector's items and people paid £100 odd for them back in the day. But they certainly have lost all of their value. I find at the moment Buddhas aren't selling particularly well. I've got a couple listed on my website, although they are brass. That was a soapstone. Trains, railway armour always sells really well, but again too far down towards the end of the auction for me to even be there to bid. And if you're wondering why I don't stay to the end, it's because I do have some family commitments that I have to take into account, just in case you're wondering. Militaria here. We have cap badges and blazer badges, I guess. Not something I'm familiar with in particular. Again, something I should probably be picking up for the flea market. These military cap badges sold for £32. Little Japanese or Chinese pot stand. And here we have a nice collector's cabinet. Again, when I had the shop, I would have had a bid on this, but I'm certainly not shipping cabinets with glass panels. They're just never going to get to the buyer in one piece, so I will be passing on that. This small glass fronted display cabinet sold for £24. Dodge around some of my fellow dealers here, more Compton and Woodhouse by the look of it. Nice collection of brass aeroplanes, model aeroplanes. They do sell, and again, if I'd have been there at the end of the auction, I would have had a bid on them, and they would have gone onto the flea market. They wouldn't have gone on the website. All my website stock has value of at least £20 to £30 plus shipping. This job lot of brass planes sold for £20. Now, the Caithness paperweights sell quite well, but I didn't actually check the base of them to see where they were made, so I won't be bidding on them. Antique or vintage glass paperweights are definitely a good investment, especially if they're marked up as being made in Caithness, Scotland. Some of them can make a lot of money, and you'd be amazed at how many people just pass them by. Bit more militaria here. We have some vintage helmets. I'm not sure they go back as far as the Second World War. They'll sell definitely, but not my area of expertise. Now, just out of interest, I did keep an eye on this Murano clown, and he sold for £14. Little plastic box full of watches. I have actually got a collection of dress watches and fashion watches that I'm going to add to my flea market stock, so I'll probably feature those in an upcoming film. Now, this next lot is of interest to me, and it's a collection of hand-carved treen, which is small wooden items and very primitive. Hard to put an age to it, potentially early part of the 20th century. I'm not sure. It's completely shed made. They're quite weird. I don't know if they're part of an old or antique or vintage game of some sort, I'm not sure. And these actually sold, believe it or not, as a job lot for £5, plus the 10% hammer fee, plus the £1 lot fee. So in total they sold for £6.50. I should have had a bid on them. This apothecary style cabinet sold for £14 plus fees, which I thought was a good buy and would have been of interest to me when I had the shop. Now, writing slopes used to be popular and you could sell them all day long, but not anymore. I think everybody who wanted one has now got one, and they tend now to only sell for a few pounds, even examples like this, which is in really good condition. You never get a key with them, which is frustrating. Or hardly ever get a key with them. And that puts me off as well. But you can see from the condition of the leatherette, it's either been restored or it's hardly been used. Looking back in hindsight, perhaps I could have had a bid on that and picked it up for around £5. There's a tub of assorted costume jewellery. and some vintage clocks, which would be one lot, I would imagine. This jewellery box adds some nice inlay on the top, and that's sold for £8 plus fees. Here's a lovely little storage cupboard with what looks like a bone handle, and this sold for £24 plus fees. So that would have been 10% on the hammer price, an additional £2.40 plus the £1 lot fee. So that's a lovely little item, and I would have had a bid on that, but the price soon shot up, and I didn't think there was much of a profit left in it. Picnic box, you can see there, that 1950s 60s picnic box sold for £24 plus fees. It was complete and in very good condition. Now here's another item coming up I should have had a bid on, wish I had. It's a porcupine quill box, and I think, if memory serves me correct, it's sold for less than £10 plus fees. If anyone was there and I'm wrong, please correct me, but that's my recollection. Should have had a go at that. That was a very different item and attractive. This was an album full of movie stars, probably pre-war, I would imagine, pre-Second World War that is, or possibly just after 1950s. Look like a complete set. It's not something I'm dealing. They don't sell for a huge amount, although they are collectible, and I think this lot was all movie related. This collection of movie star cigarette cards and books sold for £12. To be honest with you, I think I do need to start bidding on hopefully buying this kind of lot moving forward, purely for the flea market stall. It's the kind of stock I need. It'll attract people to the table, and there's a possibility of making a small profit. Again, here's another example of a job lot of interesting curios. Included in this eclectic lot is a miniature gilt brass display easel, an antique ink blotter in good condition, a decorative fob watch, collectible Cadbury model truck, and a shoehorn. Perhaps I should have bid on this, but I didn't. But I think I will in the future. Next up is a job lot of picture postcard monthly periodicals. They were a subscription magazine that offered insights into diverse societies and their stories, often focusing on the cultural significance and historical context of the images they featured. This lot was a no sale. Here's a job lot of toys from the early 2000s, from the Alien movie franchise. So I don't know if that dates them for you experts out there in vintage toys. Depending on the particular action figure, they can sell for anything from £5 up to £25 on well-known online auction sites. This job lot of Alien action figure toys sold for £34. Again, another job lot I should have bid on, a vintage stamp collection. The value of it depends on the individual stamps in the collection. I'm definitely learning by my mistakes here. This stamp collection sold for £8. Now, this item was of interest to me, and it's an antique, or at least early 20th century, small stall. I wouldn't call it a milking stall as such, but it actually sold for £28 plus fees, which was too much for me. A few years ago you could pick them up for next to nothing, but now they're all the rage and they sell for quite a lot of money. Here's a Smirnoff ice bucket. Anything branded is always interesting to collectors, and this sold for £16 plus fees. Most vintage branded items embody both history and nostalgia, and they evoke a sense of authenticity and often rarity, especially if they are in good condition like this Smirnoff icebox. Their enduring appeal lies in their ability to offer a connection to long-gone eras and iconic brand names, making them items sought after by collectors worldwide. The steel drawers you can see at the top, industrial furniture, they sold for £14 plus fees. And this brass Last Supper depiction sold for £3. I think that was probably a brass gilt, so it wasn't solid brass. Albums, well, depends on who the artists are. And here we have some Breweriana associated ashtrays, all branded up. They sold for £6 plus fees. Now, strangely enough, I was going to have a bid on these because one of the flea markets I sell at is Stratford-upon-Avon. It's a very rural area, and I thought that these pigeon decoys would go down well there. They actually sold, the whole box sold for £14 plus fees. But online you can pick them up for, well, very little. £2 or £3 for, you know, a couple of them. So I could have gone online and bought a brand new collection of them for probably less than they sold at the auction. A little bit more pewter here. What I tend to look for is the arts and crafts and the Art Nouveau examples. This job lot of pewter tankards sold for £2. This brass tiger sold for £5. This vintage OXO poster details the cuts of meat on a sheep. From chops to scrag end, this nostalgic piece of graphic art demonstrates the craft of butchery in great detail. It's also a piece of social history and would have been fantastic for the Stratford flea market. I must have been asleep when it came up for auction as I didn't bid for it. However, as I expected, it was popular and sold for £30 plus fees. Now these artificial flowers always sell quite well, and there were two massive bunches and they sold for £10. This framed postage stamp display sold for £2. And don't forget, there will be an additional £1 per sold lot plus 10% on the final hammer price for all sold items. So there you go, a quick sprint around an auction with an indication of the prices that some of the items went for. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you're a new subscriber to the channel, please let me know where approximately you are from in the world, and I'll add you to our digital subscriber list that should be scrolling across the screen as I speak. But as ever, please, the most important thing of all, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.